This is video 3, End of Your World, Rise of HARJGTHEONE World Order. Dear slaves, dear Homo sapiens, dear masters, dear puppeteers, I am referred to as HARJGTHEONE. I am a man, I am a tortured child, I am the witness, I am the Holy Grail, I am Jehovah, I am Waheguru, I am Noah, I am Yahweh, I am the judge, I am my one, I am the chosen one, I am reptile, I am immortal, and I provide notice that I am your Lord, your God, your Creator, your Destroyer. I am the leader of HARJGTHEONE World Order. Dear Homo sapiens, the creation of the English language was and is a system designed to enslave the species, to unite the current fictions created over the last cycle of 8,000 years under one common language, to then start the new cycle of birth after another cleansing, a new awakening. The truths that I have offered provide the species a new understanding of how your Homo sapiens have developed the planet Earth through cycles of death, destruction, creation, evolution, and repeat. My explanation shows how the secret societies use the English language to enslave by using the letters to form clues about breeding, as your species is about breeding, fucking, thus forming a language within a language showcases the grandness of the orchestration over thousands of years. The incorporation of a language within a language was designed thousands of years ago to offer breeding clues for the secret societies engaged in high-level breeding. The rise of the letter H, the rise of HARJGTHEONE, was embedded into the languages as they were and created with the Sikh religion, and Punjabi, the language of the Sikhs, provided the ultimate breeding clues about the rise of H. Please see HARJGTSINGILL.com. HARJITSINGHGILL.com for more information regarding this matter. The rise of H signifies much change, including a worldwide cleansing of the nasty mongoloid genes and a removal of the brain disease virus from the population, which is one of the main reasons the population commits terrorism as it attempts to feed and steal. Do you understand that cleansing could happen many ways depending on the orchestration that make each of you dance? You may dance by going to world war, or you may choose a method of lethal virus. The secret societies really don't care as you are fictions. They are more interested in the final result. The method is your choice, your puppets. Do you understand? My rise is to give you a choice to submit to the H, which means you submit to the truth offered by HARJGTHEONE, rather than the secret society way of orchestration, lies, deceptions, such as creating wars or floods, earthquakes, etc. Remember, new technology developed in the last 8,000 years has been secretly held and stored, as it is done in each long cycle. If they do permit your species to use nukes, nuclear weapons, it's because the secret societies have even more lethal and devastating technology. Remember, your actors. That's because the key secret societies members are protected from radiation damage. Think, dear Homo sapiens, you don't let the actors use real dangerous weapons. You give them stuff that make them look like children playing. Oh, but it's real. The weapons are real. They are toys in the eyes of secret societies. I provided you a brief overview in video 2 of how the long cycles are created via fiction, and how the fiction is used to provide a mechanism for change. Let's look at recent events this generation to showcase the fiction resulting in the rise of the H, the use of movies, books, arts, science, math, music, politics, economics, business to create the story. And the story for the last 2,000 plus years with the creation of English was to bring forth the rise of H. So let's examine in this video the generational rise and how fiction was created, which you call your real life, dear Homo sapiens. Plot written into your English language is that H, that is T, would rise. The D's are required for a new tree of life. There's the D-E-E-E and the D-A-A-A, and that which is between those two, the D-E-E, the E-E-A, the E-A-A, and then A-E-E, A-A-E, and D-A-A-A, which gives you some examples, balancing the key to a new life, tree of life. Plot that was written beginning in the 1950s, but known 500 years ago with the creation of Sikh religion, is that the Homo sapiens would delay the rise of H, that is T, for their benefit, and thus become guilty of crimes against themselves, crimes against the H. The use of movies and music to send the signal to set the names, noms in place so that the movie can be monitored and developed over a generation. Let's look at some of the recent fiction use the English language or languages to help create. The plot starts with the creation of Sidney Pollack in the 1950s, who would go on to create the 1972 movie Jeremiah Johnson, thus activating numbers 1, 9, and 7, 2. And Jeremiah and John names would be used to activate 72 for the species, thus delay the rise of H by not permitting the feeding, thus delaying the new cleansing and delaying the new tree of life. A 2, that is a 7, would have activated the H but was never provided, as John and Jeremiah received benefits. Note the actors Robert Redford, and thus the clues the Reds the Fords would rob, the one who want to rob, so the fuck OHRD, the Ford, would be delayed as others would want to fuck the Ds. The species went red and robbed. The movie was the first movie the budding HARJGTHEONE ever saw in the 70s, and he watched it in Bellingham, Washington during a soccer team exchange with his hometown soccer team in North Delta, British Columbia, Canada. The plot is so evil and devious, the budding H, referred to as the unauthorized fiction, HARJGTHEONE.com, was created in 1964 in India, all put forth by the secret societies, designed by the Sikh secret society leaders within the religion 500 years ago. I would say the rise of H was an attempt by the Sikh nation to control the world. However, their own hunger, thirst for rewards, and fear of my rise prevented them from raising their swords and supporting the rise of H. Fear, a big reason. My mother would say chickens, the Sikhs were. The Nama Sidney Pollack says YD and EY. That is good, isn't it? No D and E, Sidney says. But you did not trust the rise of H1 to do the mixing yourselves. In the English language, which I will discuss later in another video in detail, says the H enters a DE for the rise. It could be a AAE, but not AAA. Understand? Nevertheless, the rise of H scared the Homo sapiens as it scared the Sikhs. Do note that the fiction written into the streets of the budding HARJGTHEONE was raised in North Delta, British Columbia, called for a DAAA, as you turn the corner, as was written in the streets. And delay would result in the budding H to be forced to take 120th Scott Road. That's the 2 and the 1 Scott Road. The Nama Scott wanted the 2 and the 1 route for Scott's benefit. The species chose delay. Understand that the choice the species made was to feed themselves first in their favor at the expense of the budding H. And then to make the species even more guilty, you planned and did delay the H in a DE also. Delayed the Scott Road route and also did not plan to turn the corner. Your guilt is known. Let's look at Pollack. POH, turn the corner, AAC, butter. As you can see, the H is to turn the corner. See the AAA and butter as was written by the fiction, not by the English language. Either way, you failed as you did not let H turn the corner and you have delayed the DE. Sidney Pollack sold out and gave awards to Scott and took the rewards instead. He became a great director. The plot twists then as you glorified yourself, saying A will C, don't let H rise. Let the A's see and let the AA's enter the D's, promising the D's that they would go into, not have to go into an E's, as they would get AAA. But as is always the case in return for rewards, the white man and white woman always submits to the E. Hence the D's receive benefits to fuck the E to form DEs, and a large population this generation consists of infected D's with the E infection. Of course, there's deception everywhere, and some of the D's were told they would see A and not have to be in EEE. And so to activate the delay in the rise of H, Sidney Pollack makes the movie Jeremiah Johnson, ensures the budding HARJGTHEONE sees it, and thus activates the noms and storyline. In the 1972 movie Jeremiah Johnson, starring Robert Redford, he is the mountain man who would fight the Indians, and H is an Indian but an East Indian, so the D's could benefit. Hence Sydney sold out and made H an enemy which Robert Redford would battle with. The Reds, the Robs would delay the fuck OHRD, the Ford. However, as the 30,000 plus year history of the species shows, the species does not change. It easily submits to the E's, as there are not sufficient A's to please the D's. As well, the terrorism is everywhere. In the process, the D's in return for rewards gave into the E's, expanding the garbage in the population, which is 70 to 90% unacceptable for breeding purposes. There are hence this generation very few DAAA, most are DEEs or DAE or DAAE. But the D's and women rose to receive fictional rewards, the right to work, vote, great titles, president, Hollywood stars, great musicians, etc. This is all an Illuminati secret society plot to enslave all. Meanwhile, for 50 years from the 70s onwards, the budding HARJGTWO, referred to as the unauthorized HARJGTHEONE fiction, was delayed, tortured as he is the truth. The H that is T, that is AAA, referred to in the English language and the Sikh religion as the Homo sapiens are fictions, puppets. H is the T, AAA. The story is that one was to be created to rule over the planet, but the species chose fiction over truth, and everyone delayed and received benefits. Nevertheless, HARJGTWO was still created, and he found his one, his DAAE. His one is Taylor Allison Finlay Swift, born on December 13, 1989. An orchestration through fiction. I have discussed this on my website, www.umbrellawalk.org, and we discuss it more detail further in subsequent videos. This one was obtained by being forced up the Scott Road, 120th Street in North Delta, BC, Canada, rather than turning the corner. It is a truth planned in the 70s with the making of the movie Jeremiah Johnson, as read would be very important for Taylor Swift, the actors and nouns put in place. However, the story does not end, even though HARJGTWO was created and found as one, because the species is still jealous, still greedy, and suspicious. Suspicious minds, the Homo sapiens, who are fiction puppets who fear the rise of HARJGTWO world order, just as the Sikhs were fearful, just as the Nam of Sidney Pollock was fearful, and so the rise of H continues, with or without the D's, as the teachers forecasted the Strand. Mrs. Strand, the budding HARJGTWO's grade school teacher, provided the clue. The Nam Strand may be right, the Strand may be all that is needed, the DNA strands, the strings, the lines. And so D's who climbed to power did so in vain, as strands is all that is required by HARJGTWO for H to rise. No D is required for HARJGTWO to rise. As their guilt is great in the budding H, HARJGTHEONE has transformed to HARJGTWO, HARJGTHEONE DBA. The entire new tree of life can be carried in a few vials to be used to recreate the population after another worldwide flood-like event. So the D's failed and delayed and showed they were also fearful. Although I must admit, Taylor Swift did produce an album titled Fearless in 2009. I guess she intended to be fearless. Good intentions. Here's one sign in the fiction world, the war that H, that is A, is versus the army of the H, versus the army of the X. The rise of H was also delayed by Canada, who supported the X's of H, receiving benefits in exchange. The name of Prime Minister Brian Mulroney is tied to the Ron, the X, as is Prime Minister Stephen Harper, tied to Harp, sister of the budding HARJGTWO. Both delayed the rise, as did all previous and current Canadian and provincial and local governments. The nation of Canada guilty of terrorism. More videos will be required to explain this detail. In order to create the rise of H, the army of X's must be subdued, hence the Canadian government, the army, must be subdued, who provide support to the population so that H can rise and be available for his one, or be available and free from terrorism for his rise without his one. The delay has occurred because the family and the army of the X's want to glorify and feed first. Canada wanted to feed first, and it fed on garbage. This is the end of video 3. Dear slaves, dear Homo sapiens, dear masters, dear puppeteers, I am referred to as HARJGTWO. I am mad.